What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Driversedition. And today, well, we got an interesting conversation. As of right now, I am out in Orion. Yes, Orion is my 2019 SV Autobiography Range Rover. That's not the focal point of this conversation, but I will sit there and say what did come up is the conversation we got to have today. What do I think about the E-Ray and my thoughts of coming back to the Corvette? I never said I would not come back to a Corvette. I actually still look at it as probably the number 2 car or number 3 car on my list of vehicles to purchase when I come back to the performance side of the market space. What I'm looking at more so is a C8 E-Ray or a C8 Z06. And because of that, I've always getting asked, why not just get the E-Ray? It's the better performing car. And I tell everybody when I sit down and have this conversation with them is that the E-Ray is technically not the better car, but I can understand why many people say it is. But at the same point in time, you have to buy a car based off what works for you and what you want out of the car. And for that reason, I don't think the E-Ray is a good ownership purchase for me. And then a lot of people want to know why I truly feel that way. So this video is going to be based off what you saw in the title, and that is why buying the E-Ray would be a bad decision. So before I dump really deep into this conversation, I want to get this disclaimer out that so many people are going to ignore. I'm not saying the E-Ray is a bad car and it isn't one that you should consider purchasing. But what I am saying is, for me and for most people, buying the E-Ray would be a bad decision, and I'm going to tell you why. Now let's talk about it. So, as we focus on why buying an E-Ray would be a bad decision, let me start out by sitting there saying to you that the E-Ray has been on my radar. And the thing that makes the E-Ray stand out on my radar the most is also the reason why I think buying an E-Ray would be a terrible decision. And that is the actual value of the car. Today, I see E-Rays on the market. Coupe E-Rays, which I would never buy a coupe. But I see coupe E-Rays on the market with what I would say fair to decent used car purchase miles for $82,000 to $85,000. And the mileage on it is anywhere up under 16,000 miles. Most Corvette owners will drive their car 6,000 to 7,000 miles a year. The average person drives a car 12,000 miles. The E-Ray is supposed to be the true definition of a daily driver for the Corvette platform. So I can't say it's going to be the most daily drivable Corvette and then expect it not to be daily driven. So if that's the case, I have to say I expect the car to have somewhere around 12,000 miles a year on it. And considering the fact we're somewhere floating into the 2-year ownership window prime line, 16,000 miles for an E-Ray technically isn't bad. So would I buy one that high miles? Probably not. I probably would cap myself somewhere around 12,000 miles at the most. But looking at an E-Ray for that price range, I start to realize that if they're dropping like hotcakes, and I say dropping like hotcakes, a 2026 E-Ray, brand new, is still like a $112,000 car with no options. For you to now be able to get a 2024 or 2025 model year E-Ray for $82,000 with 12,000 or 15,000 miles on it, that says a lot, especially when these aren't just base cars. Some of these cars are 2LZs, which is the second trim level version of the E-Ray, and they're still that cheap. And so if you're looking to buy a car and expect to have some type of value in your purchase, the E-Ray right now is showing that there is no value or long-term value in the purchase of your car. But buying a used car with that type of depreciation already taking place would make it a better purchase decision versus buying a new one. So I guess it's a gift and a curse when we talk about value with the E-Ray. But overall, I would like to say that right now, the E-Ray is not showing any signs of retaining any significant value from its initial purchase. And just harping on that a little bit longer, the most maxed out E-Ray I could find was close to $150,000. I think it was like $155,000 for an E-Ray. And that's maxed out. We're talking about carbon fiber wheels, the carbon ceramic brakes. You still don't really get a Z07 package option with it, but you get a nicely equipped car. And when you look at it from that perspective, that the most maxed out version of the E-Ray is right around $150,000 if I'm not mistaken. When you look at a new E-Ray, a 1LZ, they're discounting that car to almost $98,000. You see them for $102,000. You'll see them for just above $100,000, but most places, if you go in, they will work with you and get you under $100,000 for the car. But what's even more significant about that is because when you start looking at the 3LZ E-Ray, the 3LZ E-Ray has over $25,000 in discounts because they can't sell them. So when you're looking at a car that stickers for $155,000 and you can buy it for $130,000 and nobody's buying it, that tells you something. That tells you that the value in the car just isn't there. And although it may have some remarkable performance, if a dealer is offering you $25,000 off for the car, the value of it is a lot lower than that. They're not going to give you all the depreciation of the car. So that $25,000 off may be for a car that's technically $32,000 already in the hole the moment you put a plate on it and drive it off the lot. I just can't buy into that. Another factor why buying an E-Ray is a bad decision is because when you look at the technology that comes with it, and technology does change. I would never argue and say it doesn't. But when you look at the technology that comes with the E-Ray, GM really doesn't, how can I say this the nice way? There is no school for their mechanics to go to learn how to work on an E-Ray. They may send a tech out to give you some spot training, but for the most part, it's built upon the foundation that you already have as a Corvette tech. And when I speak to some of the Corvette techs and just ask about some of the issues they've seen, and I'm also in Corvette groups and Corvette forums, and we'll dive into this a little bit later, but a lot of the technicians say working on the E-Ray isn't a fun task because there's so much going on with the car that troubleshooting the car and identifying issues isn't as simple as people believe. So it creates longer diagnostic times, and because of that, the cost for diagnosing the car have actually gone up. Or should I say, the price that people have to pay for diagnostics alone has gone up, which has increased the repair costs for the car. So a lot of owners aren't happy when they get the repair cost bill. And that's another factor why I say buying an E-Ray is a bad decision. Because to get this vehicle troubleshot after the warranty is over is going to be costly. And not even mention the fact that it's costly, mention the fact that a lot of the mechanics really have no true experience with this car. And the production numbers really aren't there. So whereas I don't know a location I can comfortably say sees a lot of E-Rays, but I don't feel like there will be a lot of dealers that will be exposed to this car, and working on this car will be normal. Or should I say, not extra. And I know we're going to hear, well, it's the same engine inside the base model C8. That is true. But when you look at it from a different set of lenses, it also has electric motors. How does replacing electric motors play into the factor of why the car may not be working correctly? How does the software setup or the software programming telling the car when to engage the electric motors and when not to engage the electric motors, or when to go to all-wheel drive and when not to go to all-wheel drive, how does that come into a factor? Do you have issues from software versus mechanical? All these things become factors, and some mechanics really are more along the grounds of more comparable when it comes to dealing with mechanical issues and getting their hands dirty turning wrenches versus the programming side and dealing more with the software aspects of your car. So the future is changing, the diagnostics are changing, the repairs are changing. And now you're looking for a location that can handle that, or should I say have more experience with that or exposure, to make that not seem like a challenging factor. So that's another reason I don't want to own an E-Ray, because I don't want to get caught up in the how to, where to, and who should be working on the car, and am I getting ripped off for paying more for lack of experience versus what it actually costs to fix the vehicle. And that actually does happen. The lack of experience meaning that you will pay longer for the mechanic trying to figure out what's wrong with your car. I'll give you an example. My convertible top stopped working on Zeus. I took the vehicle in and I instantly knew it was a relay, and I traced it down to one or two relays, and it ended up being one of the two relays that I said was the actual issue. It took me, because I have an electrical background and I also have a mechanical background, but I deal with relays, software programming, and so forth on a daily basis. It didn't take me that long to figure out this should possibly be the issue. I just didn't know how to order the sensor and where to actually put it to make it operate correct when it comes to the relay functions of the car. So I took it to the Chevy dealer. Well, what I was told was an understandable statement, is that I need to actually diagnose, meaning the mechanic needs to diagnose what's wrong with the vehicle. They just can't go off my words and stuff and so forth. And when it came time for him to troubleshoot the car, after investing 10 hours in the car, he couldn't figure out what was wrong with the car. So he ended up working on diagnosing my car and coming back and figuring out which relay it actually was. It took him over 26 hours to figure out what was wrong with my car and which relay was actually bad. Now, when they tried to bill me out for doing the repair, they came to me with a bill that showcased 26 hours of labor. Now, I'm just gonna say this to you. I didn't pay it. I had that reduced down to about 2 hours of labor, along with the parts service and so forth. Especially since I actually sat there and said multiple times, this is the issue, we want to get this resolved. But my point is, these are the type of bills that people are getting exposed to, and many people are actually paying. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are scared to own a base C8 outside of warranty, and to actually think about that being amplified or multiplied on a E-Ray because of all the extra components and the mechanics not being used to working on them is a whole nother issue that a lot of owners don't want to take on, like myself. So that's another reason why I say buying an E-Ray is a bad decision, because at this point in time, you're getting caught into the learning curve, and I really don't believe there is a simplistic way to diagnose this car with problems, and too many mechanics that you would be exposed to. There's not enough of these cars on the market to actually have a real expert when it comes to the E-Ray. That's just my thoughts. Another reason why I would say it's a bad decision to own an E-Ray is because you actually come across mechanical issues that there just don't exist on the normal Corvette side of the marketplace. Being in Corvette groups and forums, what I have seen listed, and I've actually had brought to me, or should I say, some mechanics say these are some of the challenges that they faced, and these vehicles were brought in because these things were malfunctioning, or this was the problem people were having with their cars. First off would be, we had a car come in where the electrical motors kicked in, but the engine wouldn't come back on. So once the car came to a stop, the gas engine went off and never would come back on, and ultimately the person could drive only as far as the electrical batteries would let them take. They also experienced a similar problem once they were on the highway, where they were on the highway and for whatever reason, the actual gas engine kicked off and they were on full hybrid power, or should I say electrical power, until the car battery got dissolved, and then they had to shut the car off and turn it back on to get the gas engine to restart. So once they were driving, anytime that the engine would go off, it would never come back on. Another similar issue was the opposite side. The person could never get the car to go in stealth mode, and during the regen process, it would show that it's charging up the battery, and they would get to a point where the battery would not take any more charge, but the car was never actually utilizing the electrical motors to help enhance the performance. So when you start to realize that you now have extra sensors, software programming, and things of that nature, and one where the car wasn't coming back on was a sensor problem. The sensor was something with the sensor was not triggering the car to come back to turn the gas engine back on. There was another situation with a very similar problem where the gas engine wouldn't come back on, and that would actually end up being a software glitch, and they had to reprogram the car's software. So all I'm saying to you is these type of problems that are coming up with this car is something that you would never experience on a pure gas engine car. That's also a reason why a lot of owners of the C8 ZR1 who said, yes, I would love having the extra power and performance behind the C8 ZR1X, but I don't want to have the technology possibilities of things that can go wrong with adding on the electrical aspect of the car, so they would just take the ZR1 and be happy. So I get it. And I can be honest with you, I'm along those lines. I think having a hybrid system is amazing. I actually have one on my work car, and it helps me preserve gas, and it helps in so many ways increase the performance of the four-cylinder engine and make it really feel like it's performing like a V6, because the electric motors are so great when you step on for instant torque. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the maintenance and so forth, and the car braking, it's not the same cost as just fixing a four-cylinder vehicle. I had to do so much more. There's always reprogramming. There's a lot of extra factors involved. And so just for me, experiencing that on a much cheaper car is definitely not something I want to take on the repair costs when it comes to owning a more technological car. So when I say this to you, owning an E-rate can really, in the long-term aspect, become a more costly experience that a lot of people don't want to engage with or take on. And last but not least, I would say another reason why I say buying the E-rate is truly a bad decision. The E-rate, although it has a lot of low-end performance, I like to get on the highway. I like to drive spirited. I like to play with the car some. I like more of the top-end performance. And this is where the E-rate just isn't strong suited for. It's a low-end performance car. And to me, having a car with a lot of low-end performance can also be a dangerous car to own, because it takes off like a rocket ship. So just getting into a rhythm, or should I say a habit, of launching off at every stoplight. Remember, you don't have to set the car up to launch with the E-rate. Just stepping on the gas from a dead stop, the car is going to launch a lot harder than any Corvette or a gas engine car would ever do. Owning a car with that type of power comes with great responsibility. And I wouldn't feel comfortable putting someone else behind the wheels. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable about letting my wife get behind the wheels of something that powerful. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting my son behind the wheels of something with that much power and torque. So when I look at it from that perspective, especially if I can't dial it down, I feel like the E-rate demands you be more tentative and is less forgiving when it comes to delivering the power and how fast it can put you at higher speeds. Now, I know a lot of people are like, that's just crazy, but I really feel that way. And so I feel like getting behind, putting unexperienced drivers, just putting the everyday Joe behind the wheel of a car with that much power is insane. And so for that purpose, and I'm not going to say power, but I'm going to say instant low-end torque performance. Instant low-end performance. That to me is concerning. And so because I look at it from that perspective, I just feel like it isn't a car that would be a great purchase option for me. I would enjoy owning it. I wouldn't definitely turn it away. But I feel like because of those reasons, as just starting point reasons, because I can keep going, it just isn't the car for me to own. And there's no knock against the E-Ray, because it's an amazing car and there are a lot of owners out there who are enjoying it. But at the end of the day, you buy a car for the type of driving you want to do and you want to, and the experience you want to have. And for me, all of that goes into the ownership experience. And that type of ownership experience isn't something I'm looking forward to right now. I'm not looking to be concerned about, will I have high repair costs because of the electrical side of the car? Will I have more software glitches because the base C8 had software reprogramming constantly? We've had software glitches because it's the most technological advanced car, or should I say Corvette, ever built. Do I really believe that GM has figured all of that out? I don't. And I feel like because of this, because of all the stuff that the car can do, it just becomes more of an expense to own it and keep it well maintained. And that's just not what I'm looking to add on. So maybe down the line, but again, when GM has an alternative that performs better, and you heard me correctly, when GM has an alternative that performs better, ideally the C8 Z06, in my opinion, owning the C8 Z06 just becomes a better long-term decision. And so when I look at the two cars, to me, buying the E-Ray would be a bad decision when buying a C8 Z06 would just be more logical and probably cost efficient in the long term. But let me know your thoughts in the comment below. Do you think I'm nitpicking with this car? Do you think I'm focusing on things that really should be thought about, or that you didn't think about if you were looking to purchase the car? But at the same point in time, is it something that you really care about, or do you believe that your ownership will only be under the warranty anyway, so why focus or get caught up on the other things that I mentioned? Let me know what your stance is. But ICNV Driversedition, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the ICNV Driversedition community. We are an interactive community, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms, I'll do my best to respond. If the topic you bring up is interesting enough, I may even shoot a video on it. So just remember, we were all given dominion over the world, which means we weren't just meant to be. So chase your dreams, build your visions, never ever give up, and embrace your own identity. It is okay to be unique. We were all given unique gifts to become the best version of us that we can possibly be. So step into your calling and become the blessing to the world that you were meant to be. Just remember to stay humble, stay focused, and stay blessed. And I'll see you in these streets. Peace.